This lesson, we're going to be talking about triangles and quadrilaterals. So first, let's go ahead and talk about what a quadrilateral actually is. A quadrilateral is a closed shape with four sides, and you can see 6 examples here below. Here are the different quadrilaterals we're going to be learning about this school year. The first is called a parallelogram, and a parallelogram has some characteristics that make it very unique. A parallelogram has 2 pairs of parallel sides, and you can see this in the image indicated by the little arrows. Those opposite sides there are parallel to each other. And they also have opposite angles that are equal. And I'll go ahead and indicate that, showing you this. This is an angle measure, and this angle are equal to each other. Another word that we like to use in math, instead of the word equal, is the word congruent. So the other angles are also congruent. And I'm going to go ahead and put 2 little angle measures there to show you that those 2 opposite angles are congruent with one another. The next shape is called a rhombus. And a rhombus kind of looks like a slanted square. And the characteristics of a rhombus are that it has 4 equal sides, very similarly to a square. And the opposite angles are equal, very similarly to the parallelogram. So they also have parallel sides. So those side lengths that are opposite of each other are also parallel. And I'm going to go ahead and indicate those little angle measures in there as well to kind of show you that congruency, or that those angles are equal to each other. Okay, the rectangle. We're very familiar with the rectangle. What's unique about a rectangle is it has 2 pairs of parallel sides, and the angle measures are all right angles, meaning they're all 90-degree angles, and that's indicated by this little box. Anytime you have a little box in the corner of a quadrilateral, that means that it creates a 90-degree angle. The next one is a square, and we're very familiar with a square. It looks kind of like a rhombus and a rectangle. And the unique characteristics about it is that it has 4 equal sides, and those 2 sides are parallel. The opposite sides are parallel with one another. And they also, the square also has 4 right angles within it, and that's indicated by that little square in the angle measure. The next shape is called a trapezoid. And a trapezoid, the main characteristic that makes this shape unique is that it has exactly 1 pair of parallel sides. And you can see that indicated in our image here. The other 2 sides are just going to be 2 other sides. But what makes it unique is that 2 of the side lengths are parallel to one another. Now, an isosceles trapezoid is a very specific type of trapezoid. And this trapezoid has 1 pair of parallel sides, very similarly to the regular trapezoid. But what makes this one very unique is that it has 1 pair of equal sides. And you can see that indicated by this little line right here. Those little lines mean that those 2 lines are equal or congruent to one another. A nice little chart that we like to use to help us recognize these quadrilaterals is seen here. And one thing I want you to notice about this, this diagram is that we are not going to be studying the kite this year in 7th grade. So we don't need to worry about that center quadrilateral, although a kite is a type of quadrilateral. All right, let's go ahead and do some practice. All we're going to be doing in this lesson here today is naming the quadrilaterals and trying to identify them. The best way to really get good practice with this is flashcards and just practicing these skills and making sure we know the different characteristics for each one of these specific quadrilaterals. So here it says, write the letter of the quadrilateral on the blank that best fits the description. And I have 5 different quadrilaterals here to look at. The little lines on the quadrilaterals represent the congruency of those side lengths. So if they have the same number of lines, that means that those lines are equal in size. And on letter C, you have this little carrot looking thing, and those mean that those lines are parallel. So let's look at number 1. Number 1 is a rectangle. if we look at our shapes above, the best description there is going to be D, or the best image there is going to be D. Trapezoid is going to be C. And you can see that it's the trapezoid is C because it has one set of sides that are parallel to one another. A square, well, a square has all equal sides and right angles, so that'll be A. A rhombus is going to be E, and that's going to be equal side lengths, but opposite angles congruent. And our parallelogram, the last one, is going to be B, because we have opposite sides that are parallel and we have opposite angles that are going to be equal, and they're not right angles. If they were right angles, then it would make it a rectangle. Okay, now let's look at some descriptions and see if we can determine which one of these quadrilaterals is represented here. Number 6, 4 equal sides and opposite angles equal. Okay, well, let's think about that. 4 equal sides, so it has to be either a square or a rhombus, but the opposite angles are equal. Now, this one is kind of debatable, but technically both of them have equal angles that are, opposite equal angles. But what we're looking for here is if it were a square, it would specifically say that it would have right angles in it. So it doesn't. So we're going to go with the rhombus, and we're going to say letter E. Number 7, 2 pairs of parallel sides and 4 right angles. Okay, well, right angles kind of gives us a hint that it has to be either the square or the rectangle. But it also says 2 pairs of parallel sides. So technically, this could be both either the square or the rectangle. But we're trying to determine the best name for this one. So if it were the square, it would say all sides are equal. This is specifically saying 2 pairs of parallel sides. So we're going to go with the rectangle, letter D. Number 8, exactly 1 pair of parallel sides. So this one is going to be our trapezoid, because we know that a trapezoid only has that one characteristic. All right, number 9, 2 pairs of parallel sides and opposite angles are equal. All right, 2 pairs of parallel sides. So it could be a couple of different of these quadrilaterals, but opposite angles are equal. So opposite angles really tells us that it's going to be a parallelogram or a rhombus. And I know that the rectangle and the square have opposite angles that are equal, but that's not a defining characteristic, because we would have to say more specifically that A and D, both the square and the rectangle, have right angles. And it doesn't say that. This is talking about opposite angles. And what's very unique about this one is that it has 2 pairs of parallel sides. So that's going to give us B, the parallelogram. It's not going to be E, the rhombus, because it would have to indicate that each side is equal to one another. And that's the special characteristic of a rhombus. All right, number 10, the last one here. 4 equal sides and 4 right angles. Okay, 4 equal sides, 4 right angles. That's going to leave us with the square. All right, let's try a couple more. Let's answer some questions. These ones are going to be kind of unique because we're going to circle all of the possible answers for each question. And some of them might just have one answer. Some may have several answers. So we really got to think critically here. Number 11, which figure is not a quadrilateral? So we look at these figures and say, well, which one does not have 4 sides? And it looks like D. Looks like D has 5 sides, which is called a pentagon. Number 12, which quadrilaterals are most likely not a rhombus? Well, remember our characteristics of a rhombus. What's unique about a rhombus is that all 4 sides are equal to each other, and the opposite angles are congruent or equal. So looking at A, B, C, and D, it looks like C is going to be our best option, because that's more of a parallelogram, and because it doesn't have all 4 sides equals. If you look, A, B, and D all have the same equal side lengths, but C does not. So we're going to choose C, the parallelogram. Number 13, which quadrilaterals have exactly one pair of equal sides? Well, we know that that's going to be our trapezoid. So out of all of these, the only one that's going to have one pair of equal sides is going to be our A. And you can see here are the side lengths on that figure. All of the other options here have two pairs of equal sides. Number 14, which quadrilaterals have all equal sides? All equal sides. Well, just looking at all the options here, we know that a rhombus has all equal sides, and we know that a square also has all equal sides. The other options here do not all have equal sides. Number 15, which quadrilaterals have exactly one pair of parallel sides? Well, we know that's a very unique and distinct characteristic of a trapezoid. So we're going to choose both of the trapezoid options. Number 16, which quadrilaterals do not have all equal angles? All equal angles. Well, we know that some of them have the same angles and some have opposite angles. So we know that a square has all right angles. So that can't be our choice here. But a rhombus has opposite angles that are equal. And a trapezoid, we also know the angles are not equal to each other. The rectangle has all right angles, so those are the same. And an isosceles trapezoid, all the angles are going to be different. Number 17, which quadrilaterals have two pairs of parallel sides? So two pairs of parallel sides, we know that the rectangle has that. We definitely know that the parallelogram has that. And we know that the square has that. Number 18, which quadrilaterals do not have both pairs of opposite sides equal? Well, we know the trapezoid because it only has one pair of opposite sides that are equal. And we also know that the isosceles trapezoid is the same. All right, that brings us to our end of our lesson on naming quadrilaterals. And again, the best way to practice this concept is to review the little chart up here in the top and also study all of those characteristics that belong to each one of those quadrilaterals.